Today we will be exploring how to use oil pastels. I'll be talking about what they are exactly, and we will dive right into this tutorial where I draw this figurative abstract portrait all in oil pastels. Welcome to In Her Quaint Studio. I like to paint and make videos about it. If you like the sound of that, please consider subscribing. So grab your coffee or tea and let's get started. I like this Van Gogh set because they have a wide range of colors, a good 60 colors. I think the Van Gogh quality oil pastels is a good place to start. It comes in a wide range of colors. I have the 60 pack box. I really love the selection of colors. There's a lot of vibrant, bold colors and a lot of pastel colors, and I love the fact that they even include 4 metallic colors. So for the blendability and the softness and the color assortment, I would recommend starting out with this brand. What is the difference between crayons and oil pastels? Well, crayons use only wax, and oil pastels use non-drying oil and wax. Besides the composition of the colors, there is a huge difference in how wax crayon and an oil pastel works. With crayons, it takes a lot of effort, and you have to press really hard, and it really does not blend at all. That's why mostly children use crayons, and crayons are really cheap. Oil pastels are very rich, soft, and creamy, and if you get a cheap brand of oil pastels, you'll really have a hard time blending and smoothing the oil pastel over your paper, and you will just give up on oil pastels altogether. But if you go for a more expensive brand of oil pastels, the oil content is usually higher, the pigment is usually higher, and the blendability and the smoothness of the oil pastel will be a lot better, and you'll just enjoy the art process using the more expensive oil pastel. I find that using them, your art usually gives your art an abstract feel, a very figurative feel, because getting details I find very difficult. So if you just want to try out abstract art and just have a very loose feel with your artwork, I think oil pastels is a great medium if you want to have a really abstract, bold look to your artwork. Oil pastels can be used on almost anything, like paper. There's even special pastel paper, cardboard, wood. But today I'm going to be using a simple drawing paper, nice and smooth. I'll be talking about how to blend pastels and what is the difference between oil pastels and oil sticks. But before we do that, let's head into this tutorial. So I already have my sketch laid out. I used just a normal pencil, and then I'm going to take out my kneadable eraser and just lighten all the pencil lines because I don't really want it to show through. I really want the color to be bright and bold, and I don't want the pencil to muddy it in any way. So I just lightly lightened it with that kneadable eraser. Okay, so the goal here is to keep the lines very loose, very abstract, and the less details, the better for this look. And I just got out these 2 colors. So I just want to show you that these oil pastels are coded by number just on the top, even though they're both considered warm gray. There's 2 different shades of it, and the color can be found just at the top. I decided to try to recreate this portrait. I had posted it on my Instagram, and I wasn't really sure if people were going to like it. It was a little bit different than my usual style, but I got so much great feedback from it, and some requests on how I created it, so I decided to make this tutorial. If you make a mistake with these oil pastels, you can easily erase it with a normal eraser. It's really not a problem. In general, oil pastels are really simple to use. Just a few things to note. So you may be wondering, what is the difference between oil pastels and oil sticks? Well, the main difference is that oil pastels use a non-drying mineral oil, so your artwork never really dries completely, and oil sticks are basically oil paint in a stick, which is made usually from linseed oil or safflower oil, and your artwork will eventually dry and cure like an oil painting. Depending whether you want to sell your artwork or you just want to create artwork just for fun, you might want to consider if you want to invest in oil pastels or oil sticks. Oil pastels are very blendable. You can blend them with your fingers or linseed oil or with a stump, or you can just apply it like I am going to do today without any blending. I think the trick of using oil pastels is to keep your artwork very simple, very figurative. So I'm not really going to go into detail with her features, and I'm going to use just a few colors for her actual face. Another tip I would say is before you add on a color, make sure that the color tip is clean, and you could just clean it off with a tissue or a paper towel, because once you add your oil pastel onto another color, it will dirty your oil pastel. So if you don't want your colors to be muddied too much, just make sure that the tip is clean before you apply it onto a color. You can just add colors on top of each other and they will mix pretty well. I like how these oil pastels glide on easily onto the paper. I know that there's better quality out there. For example, I think the best quality is Sennelier, but it is pretty expensive. But if you're just starting out, I think this is a good brand to start out with. So onto the eyes. I'm going to go very simple, and I'm just going to add on 2 shades of blue, one darker, one lighter, and that's about it. I'm just going to add touches of details just to suggest the iris and the eyes. And then I'm just going to go in with my warm grays and add in some shading. So I got out my white, and I'm just going to apply it on top of the lids, as I usually would in an acrylic painting, to add those touches of highlights. And then I'm just going to blend it in to my cheeks. Even though these oil pastels do blend really nicely, I find that a little wax does come off, so it's nice to have a tissue just to wipe off that excess wax that does tend to come off a bit. Now, when it comes to fine details, you can always turn over your oil pastel and just use the edge of the bottom, which is not used, so details are much easier. But I find details are not the best with oil pastels, but that's the beauty of it too. That's why I think oil pastels are great for that abstract or figurative style. So I really love this color, vermilion, and I just want to show you that oil pastels are really great for really rich, bold colors. So that's one of the main differences I find with dry pastels and the oil pastels. And if you really want to make your artwork pop, these oil pastels really do the job. And as you can see, this color is just very, very pretty, and it just pops off the page. I find just short, quick strokes of your oil pastel really goes a long way. You really don't need to use a lot of color because of its oiliness, I guess you can say. And here I'm just adding my last few touches on the face. So I'm going to get out my white again and just add 2 little pops of highlights just on the edge of her lips. So I decided to just keep the hair color the same color as the face details. I just wanted to make her lips, her eyes, and the flowers in her hair pop out. So I decided to leave everything else neutral. And again, very little detail on the hair, just a few squiggly lines, just to suggest her hair. So next challenge was adding flowers to her hair. And I guess the trick here is just to keep the lines loose and abstract and just have fun with the colors. I think I just try to balance each side, and I just try to make sure that I try to use a little bit of color theory too. I try to have a balance of warm and cool colors and add contrast. Like, for example, I added the orange beside the blue, so it will make the blue pop out more. So I think that's the challenge here, is knowing what colors to place beside each other. And I think the trick is just to make sure the colors are balanced on each side. I really wanted to use these metallic colors, so I decided to put a little tiara on her hair. So I used between deep gold and the light gold for the tiara. and they're pretty. They're not as shiny as one would expect, but there is a little bit of a sparkle, and it's just nice to have those options in the 60 set of colors. And there was really nothing to it. Just apply the color and that's about it. So yeah, I did decide to add a tinge of very, very light yellow to her hair at the end, just to add a little bit more interest to her hair. So I'm just going to finish up with adding a little bit more depth to her neck and her shoulders. I always like to add a little bit of color, but not everywhere. As you can see, I just added a little bit to her shoulder, a little bit under her neck, just as I did with the cheeks. The last final touches and taking a step back and seeing where I can make my portrait pop out a little bit more. It's funny how, even though I try to recreate my original portrait, this portrait has its own personality. She's the cuter version of her sultry sister. That's how I see it. If you're new to this channel and you like these types of videos, I'm trying to hit about 1,000 subscribers. So I would really appreciate it if you did subscribe. That would really help me out on this channel and motivate me to make more of these videos. And hit that like button. That really helps with the YouTube algorithm. As you know, that's how YouTube works nowadays. And once again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!